probably going to do another book review after this one, so I can get myself caught up and they don't take as long as a regular review. Also, it will probably be the last book review of this 31 Nights until October 30th, when I usually do a story review. Anyway, jump scares. A moment happening in horror flicks that are often accompanied by loud noises, a type of scare that became especially prevalent in the early 2010s. Now, this type of scare isn't a bad one, but it certainly has become the go-to way to scare someone in modern horror. Now, I don't mind a few jump scares now and then, but there's more than just one way to scare an audience. More effective ways, might I add. But if done right, and not done too much with the exception of Smile, which still had an overwhelming sense of danger despite the jump scare overload, you could end up making a very effective one. I feel like one of the main reasons people tend to not like jump scares is just because of the fact that they're just too easy to do. You're seriously just hiding behind the couch only to shout, "Boo!" moments later. Not really much to it, especially if there's no build-up to the jump scare, and it just abruptly happens in the most awkwardly random way possible. Besides, a jump scare just doesn't stick to you more. It might startle you for a moment, but it won't linger in your mind after the movie is over. Whereas if you take a more subtle route and take routes some storytellers are afraid to go and even tap into some of the darker aspects of human nature, then that will have you thinking long after the flick is over. Now, there are times where a jump scare can be effective. Take Smile, for example. That movie had a ton of jump scares, but it not only helped to demonstrate just how malevolent the monster is, but also implied that the thing was everywhere, so therefore every step the protagonist took had an almost unbearable sense of anticipation. However, like I said, sometimes it's best to keep jump scares to a minimum, which can actually make the jump scares that happen have a bigger impact than it would if it just constantly happened. Another way to have your jump scare be more effective is to actually have some build up to it. Maybe you could have a dark figure in the distance staring at the protagonist from afar. They don't seem armed, but you still feel an overwhelming sense of danger due to the fact that the protagonist doesn't know them, and neither do you, or know what their intentions are. It's also an invasion of privacy if it's on the protagonist's property, since the guest is uninvited and unexpected, which can add to the feeling of being watched. Now, the protagonist might close her eyes to try to convince herself no one is there. She might then open them and be relieved to find that the figure is gone, only for the camera to cut to the view behind her and show that the figure is now in her house in a startling reveal. This is scary not just because of how surprising it is, but it will also add to the sense of fear and anxiety you feel for the protagonist, especially since she doesn't know, so you are immensely worried for her safety when she goes back inside the house, not knowing someone is inside of it already. Since not only is this trespassing on her property, but it also takes away any sense of security she would have being safely locked inside the house, so she'd be able to call for help more easily. And hell, the reveal that the figure is in the house doesn't have to be accompanied by a loud violin screech. Just the reveal alone that whoever it is now inside the house is fucking scary on its own and is enough to startle us. The Strangers movie from 2008 did this tremendously. Now, I don't have too big of an issue with jump scares. I just don't like when films rely on them too much. Take Blumhouse, for example. I love a lot of their stuff, but they can sometimes be too reliant on jump scares, especially with Insidious, which I did like for its creative premise, especially with the aspect of the boy having the power to leave his body and enter the spirit realm, and The Purge, which was just so hilariously over the top. But despite that, they can still be pretty crafty sometimes when they construct a jump scare. Like when we saw Georgina peeking out the window in Get Out. It proved to be very startling since it doesn't really feel like a traditional Blumhouse jump scare. She doesn't emit a loud scream or anything, she just stands there. And the fact the viewer is led to believe she might be staring at Chris just adds to how uneasy the scene and reveal truly are. You also don't have to have a loud noise to accompany a jump scare, as I've said. Just the reveal alone is enough to make the viewer jolt. Like when we see Spoiler Alert's head in Hereditary, just the fact that it cuts to a shot of it without warning and just how shocking and gruesome the scene was overall was enough to hit the viewer without the use of a loud noise. It didn't try too hard to scare you and ended up working very well as a jump scare. Overall, I feel like the best way for your jump scare to have a big impact is to not just startle your viewer. It should also help to add to the sense of danger the protagonist is in. It should also be done in a way that makes us fear for their safety, such as having the thing be there against their knowledge. Because how can you defend yourself from something if you don't even know it is there? Also, if you're going to scream in the face of the protagonist, then at least build up to it. Like, don't reveal what the creature looks like until later, and just develop the beast as this malevolent force you don't want to meet, so that when the monster does scream in the face of the protagonist, then the jump scare will be more effective, since it means the protagonist is finally about to have a confrontation with the most dangerous thing imaginable, which adds to the sense of danger they're in due to the fact that the beast was built up in such a fearsome way before the confrontation. But at the end of the day, jump scares are not the only way to scare someone and are just too easy to do. But if done right, it can be genuinely scary, not just for the jump itself, but also the escalation to it and or the sense of endangerment and alertness it can bring not only to the main character, but also the viewer. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and sub for more content.